To kickstart this part, we have...
Speedy!
Yes?
Rhymes with DD.
Yes?
I know what that button does.
What do you want?
I want a bit of that hot stuff you got locked up in there.
You mean this game?
Yeah, that is totally what I meant. Yep.
So... You gonna be doing that?
Yes, now piddle off.
When it comes to a game that has had more ports than Steve Martin has kids, Rayman 2 brings such a nostalgic spark to everyone. Now I could blindly understand the expectations people perhaps had at the time about how well a great 2D game could ascend to an exceeding 3D sequel, but guess what? Your mind was blown away. Not up because you'd be dead otherwise. It took the overworld feature into a different and consistent approach, placing its own style into a basis that would revolutionize platforms till that day on, hence the title of the PS2 version. And the story was simple, but odd. This is Rayman. The world fallen into chaos due to the robot pirates in a flying prison ship capturing living creatures and attempting to harness the world's energy source. Rayman also being one of those captured vessels, to where Globox provides him with a power from a fairy called Lee so that Rayman can now punch. Wish I could do that. Well, not really, they're actually energy balls, but shush, stop ruining my joke. It's then up to Rayman to gather 4 masks so that he can awaken Polycus. He's basically God. Spirit of the world, they say. And he looks like salad fingers. This would need to be achieved so that Rayman can take down the pirates along with their leader, Razorbeard. I sometimes wonder how arrogant dicks like him get into this kind of power. Maybe it's propaganda and a thirst for immortality. But you have to pay attention to a story like that when you have so many different levels to go through with a kick-ass protagonist to go through it with. As for the gameplay, I'd say it's fairly solid and the camera angles are also fair game. Well...
That is the switch, okay? That is it! Come back here now!
Gameplay can be a bit tricky at times. The tracks, highly memorable, and the different versions consist of a lot of different variations when you link it to the boss music. The music that sticks out to me the most is The Crow's Nest, and the one in second place is Tomb of the Ancients. Eek is all what you were saying. At least I think so, I'm not really a mind reader. Overall, I would countlessly play this game when I was a kid, and it's such a great game to go back to even now. And this is also why I like for Ubisoft to release a new game titled Rayman 4. No third 2D game. They're cool and all, but I'd like to see more fairies like Philip J. Fry. I could say more, but Rayman pretty much sums up this game with his exciting gibberish.
Yay! Rayman!
Let me set something up here for you. What would you think of a game with the whole situation of the game being a postmodern Western Lone Ranger kind of scenario with heavy use of Japanese weapons and fighting styles? You would probably think this would be one of the strangest concepts imaginable. However, Red Steel 2 pulls off this idea fantastically. Well, if there's one thing I could ever say about this game's concept and execution, I can say that it's certainly a unique game. The whole plot of Red Steel 2 is that you're an outcast from a tribe of warriors known as the Kusagari. But now, a new brutal group of warriors have begun exterminating all the members of the Kusagari in search of an ancient blade sacred to the tribe. With the outcast being the final member of the Kusagari, he equips himself with a sacred blade and sets out to avenge the people of his tribe. As you can tell, the plot of this game has heavy influence from Japanese stories, as well as a variety of Western films, all relating back to the style mix this game presents. All the action sequences are very well stylized and all help demonstrate how much of a badass the last Kusagari is. I didn't just make up that title for him. Characters in the game all refer to him as the last Kusagari. You never learn his actual name and you never learn the reason he is an outcast. But in terms of the story and character, these aspects aren't truly important. All this mystery surrounding the last Kusagari is very fitting in terms of the story, as the enemies see him as kind of an unreal or legendary identity that seems entirely implausible. Until he's ripping them to shreds. Part of the reason I find this game so enjoyable is how the controls work so well. This was the game that got me to really enjoy using the Wii Motion Plus. For the essential combat, you're given both a sword and a collection of guns to wield. While the guns can come in useful for dealing with faraway enemies or to use in a combo with a sword, your main asset is the sword play. The sword combat is fast and seamless, with the Motion Plus reading movement very well. There are a variety of techniques to pull off with the sword, and some of the later techniques you can learn are really impressive. With an extremely well-designed combat system, great style, and a total badass as the protagonist, it's no wonder Red Steel 2 makes my top 100. I just have one question. Why haven't more people played this game? It just makes me angry sometimes. Coming in at number 58 is a game that many fans of Mega Man will be...
Someone mentioned Mega Man.
Yeah, I kinda did.
Okay, move aside, I've got this one.
What?
Don't make me call Dio.
Now that that's out of the way, this is going to sound obvious for me, but this is about Mega Man. Since 2003, the classic series hadn't seen a proper return. That game was Mega Man and Bass, and it was awesome and all, but when 2008 rolled around, Capcom brought the series back with Mega Man 9. And it was amazing! This game was number 1 on my top 10 comebacks for a wealth of reasons. To put it simply, Mega Man 9 was the game that fans of the series deserved. I know, in that list, I talked about how it was a return to what made 2 and 3 great, but the more I think about it, the more I realize it was so much more than that. This took many of the best parts of the series history and brought it together in one amazing package. First off, this game's presentation. You know, HD, super realistic graphics, symphonic music that only comes from an orchestra. Yeah, this game said fuck that and gave us retro-style 8-bit graphics and the classic chiptune music that brings back memories of the old classic NES. Next, the challenge. Oh boy, this game is challenging, but it's the kind of challenge that is balanced and fair. At no point does this game feel cheap. When you screw up, it's your own fault, and you earn every victory. On top of that, this game has some of my favorite Robot Masters ever. 5 of them made my top 50 Robot Masters list, and 2 others were honorable mentions. There is so much more I could say about this game, but I hear Speed sharpening up his sword, so I'll wrap this up by saying that if you have any interest in Mega Man and you haven't played Mega Man 9 yet, then get this game. Now!
Dio ain't got shit on me.
A lot of the more modern main series Mario games have been critiqued to hell, whether they're perceived as unoriginal, uncreative, lacking in the Mario spirit, or just plain horrible. Well, like my opinion of the 3D Sonic games, I really like the newer Mario games. They are a great ton of fun and do have a lot to offer, so the first one appearing in my top 100 is Super Mario 3D Land. Oh man, I just have a crap ton of fun with this game. Being the spiritual successor to Super Mario Bros. 3, this game had some big shoes to fill. And, in my opinion, it more than succeeded. The level design in this game is really great. Taking a page out of the earlier games in the Mario series, the levels are all very short and sweet. Because the levels themselves aren't terribly large, the developers can focus on making each smaller course highly detailed and unique. What also assists in the level design is the power-ups. You have the standard mushroom and fire flower, but the big ones are in the new power-ups, the boomerang flower, the propeller block, and the return of the raccoon and tanuki suit. The boomerang flower allows you to throw boomerangs to dispatch enemies and collect faraway objects. The propeller block is essentially the propeller shroom from New Super Mario Bros. Wii, allowing a big jump followed by a slow descent. But honestly, these are not terribly well implemented into the game. The raccoon and tanuki are, however. The little descending float they provide, the tail swinging, as well as the tanuki's statue transformations are implemented very well into the gameplay, and the game received a lot of attention for these 2 outfits, with one in particular being incredibly stupid. If there is something in the level design I felt was really cool, it was the use of 3D. In certain areas, turning on 3D is pretty much required, as without it, everything looks like it's on the same dimensional plane. The music is also really good. There's a lot of variety and they all fit the level they play in. but the music that's been playing this whole entry has got to be one of the best of this whole soundtrack. The main theme? Well, no. I mean the jazzy rendition of the main theme. Trust me, I love a little jazziness in my music. If I were to crop up with a complaint, it would be that most of the bosses are shit. Reused constantly, not too complicated, and not overly fun. The only truly fun boss fight in this game is with Bowser at the end, and that fight is just freaking amazing. Before I wrap up this entry, you think this game is too easy? Well, try getting 100%. You will find this game so much more difficult. I just want to say something here. I absolutely hated Sonic 4 Episode 1. The levels were uninteresting, the gameplay felt really basic, very little of the music was memorable, the special stages were frustrating, and overall, the game left me feeling very empty and that I wasted my time. Huh? What's this? Sonic 4 Episode 2 is out? Well, I have some cash to blow. Might as well give it a try. Okay, this is more freaking like it! After I wanted to freaking break something after how unsatisfying Part 1 was, Sonic 4 Episode 2 came along to give me what I hold is my favorite 2D Sonic game. For one, the levels in this game are so interesting and so much fun to play through. Sylvania Castle is a great tutorial level, and considering the opening level has water sections, that's really saying something. White Park takes some elements from Ice Cap Zone from Sonic 3, but adds a few spin-on things, and featuring another water-based level I enjoy. Oil Desert has a lot of fast-paced and quite demanding sections throughout that really start testing your skills. Sky Fortress, oh my god, this level! Oh man, this level is just so fucking great! The flying sections, the intense high-speed running along whilst flowing with the propellers, and the laser cannons! I love it so much! And the Death Egg Mark II is a fantastic final level with a lot of challenge. The major gameplay hasn't changed from Episode 1 for the most part, except for the returning two-tailed fox, Tails. Of course you can fly with Tails for a limited time, but you can also curl into a ball together to perform a supercharge. Although I must say it does look quite odd. You wanna know why the water sections aren't so much of a pain? Because Tails can propel you through the water easily with his tails, making this a crap ton less painful. The music, my god, do I even have to talk about it? You've been listening to my favorite track from the game, isn't that enough explanation for you? The soundtrack's great. The one thing above all else that caught me by surprise were the boss battles. In nearly every 2D Sonic game, I have pretty much never enjoyed any of the boss fights, and Episode 1 clearly didn't help with that. But check out the very first boss of the game. Alright, this seems fairly standard, and oh god, is this gonna be a remake of that really shitty boss from Sonic 2? Well, might as well see what's going on here. Wait. What the fuck's happening at it? Oh my god, what the fuck is that? Yes, this is your first boss, and every battle is a ton of fun, with my absolute favorites being the Junk Mech and the Heart of the Death Egg. In short, I really like Sonic 4 Episode 2. It rekindled my faith in 2D Sonic games, and it's the only 2D Sonic game that I've collected all 7 Chaos Emeralds in. And for me, that's an accomplishment. Well, as you know, July has just passed, which was the month that my mate Rabbit Luigi dedicated to the Legend of Zelda series. And what a month to pick for that. Because, you know, if you guys didn't know, it was my birthday in July. I got a post about, and I really like to thank all you guys for your birthday wishes, but you said good. I'm going off track here, let's just get back on topic. And in its wake, it feels appropriate to talk about a Zelda game. Which one, you ask? Well, how about the first one I ever played? Well everybody, here we have the classic Super Nintendo Zelda game soon to receive a grand spanking new sequel, A Link to the Past. Here's a game I've talked about before, both on my Top 15 Zelda Games video and my guest appearance in Ishinobu 2's Top 15 SNES games. And I gave this game a lot of praise as one of my favorite Zelda games and my favorite Super Nintendo game. However, my mindset has changed on this game. I would think you could tell considering it's this low on the list. In preparation for this top 100, I went back and replayed a number of games that are on here, with a big number of them being Zelda games. Duh. And honestly, going back to A Link to the Past, I thought it was good, but not as good as I said it was. As I played through it again, I remembered the reason I stopped playing this game years ago before falling under the series spell, but I'll cover those in a minute. Often claiming to be the best 2D Zelda game and sometimes as the best Legend of Zelda game ever, A Link to the Past does have a lot to offer. Every dungeon in the game feels unique, with tons of them having elemental properties. Several items in this game are just really fucking awesome, such as the Magic Cape, the Elemental Rods, the Pegasus Boots, the Cane of Byrna, and the Hook Shot. The Light World Dark World mechanic was extremely well implemented into the game's feel, with events in one world directly affecting the other. But if I were to say what the greatest thing this game added to the series was, it would definitely be the Master Sword. The legendary blade of evil's bane, only wieldable by the hero himself with the power to cast out all evil in its wake. Unfortunately, I guess I really need to explain my reasons for abandoning the game. First, I found A Link to the Past really difficult. I mean, balls-busting difficult. Considering I was like 7 when I first played this game, this difficulty left a really bad taste in my mouth, which has carried over to my later life. Secondly, I never found A Link to the Past terribly engaging. It never really fully drew me into the experience, and I always felt distant. And third, it was 5 years after receiving this game that I actually beat it, and playing through it again brings back not so great memories. In conclusion, I like A Link to the Past. It's a great game with fun dungeons, cool items, nice presentation, and a great soundtrack. I just have some personal issues with it. Now let's move on. Star Fox 64, a great classic for the Nintendo 64. It has quite a large following, what with the legacy it has in its wake, and players' nostalgic memories of gaming bliss. Well, I've never played Star Fox 64. Now, everyone, let me finish. I have never played Star Fox 64. I have played Star Fox 64. Okay, this might not have the intense nostalgic value that the original had, but I didn't have a Nintendo 64 growing up, so this was my first time experiencing it. And it was awesome! The control and feel of your R-Wing is fantastic. You can zip around space with tons of agility, blasting enemy ships, blowing crap up, and pulling off aerial techniques such as somersaults, U-turns, and barrel roll! Nope! You can't barrel roll in Star Fox 64. You can only perform an aileron roll. Peppy hair, you deceitful fiend! You've been lying to us all these years. I shall make sure that your demise is On the topic of Peppy, you also feel a good sense of camaraderie with your fellow crew members. Falco is your main fighter and will lead you to harder sections of levels if protected. Peppy acts as a mentor and gives advice in combat. Slippy, while a pain at times, is the crew's engineer, building the R-Wings and other crafts as well as providing information on bosses. If I had to talk about the levels, all I can say is, God damn! Every level in Star Fox 64 is memorable, each having a certain feature to make them feel unique. For better or for worse. With standout levels like Corneria, Aquas, Area 6, and Venom, it's no wonder this game has such a big following. A thing that gives Star Fox 64 its replay value is in the use of branching paths. In the majority of levels, there is usually 2 possible endings, determined by whether you receive a mission complete or mission accomplished at the end. Depending on which of these you receive, you'll begin progressing on a tangent which differs depending on your mission ranking. You receive the mission accomplished ranking by defeating a certain number of enemies, completing the level in a certain time, or by completing some other task. Wrap this branching path replayability with good presentation, a great soundtrack, and top it off with some fun and memorable characters, and man, you have a game to remember. Before I move on, I want to recite my greatest moment from Star Fox 64. I had reached the final level. Everyone was down and I only had my basic gun and 1 life left. And down come the improved Starwolf team, eager to extinguish all my efforts. So what did I do? Kicked their soup-top powerful asses with my dinky weak little spaceship. Pure greatness. You wanna know another reason Super Mario World isn't much higher on this list? Well, maybe because its sequel was far superior. Yoshi's Island, everybody! Now, this is just one of those games that I find it hard not to have a gleeful time playing through. When having to make a sequel to one of the greatest Mario games ever made, those geniuses at Nintendo cracked their skulls together and decided to make the sequel to Super Mario World not focus entirely on Mario, instead on his trusty steed, Yoshi, and tell the story of how Yoshi and Mario first met. You play as various members of the Yoshi tribe as you protect Baby Mario and rescue Luigi from the clutches of Baby Bowser. If there's one thing that nearly everyone who has played or even just watched someone play this game can agree on, is that this game looks absolutely gorgeous. Going for a kind of children's storybook style design, the environments are vibrant, detailed, and colorful. This is above all else the reason I like this game, the presentation. On top of this beautiful graphical design, it comes packed with some fantastic pieces of music, each being once more stylized and all fit with the situation in which they play in. But now, what kind of game would Yoshi's Island be if it didn't have the gameplay to follow it through? Well, it'd be some kind of laughing stock, wouldn't it, chaps? Hey, that'd be funny, wouldn't it? Yeah, alright, chaps. Okay, on top of all the attention to detail, those clever Nintendo blokes spent just as much time making the gameplay of this game feel different to Mario World. Yoshi has a standard jump, as you would have in a platformer, but also has a flutter jump, allowing him to hover in the air for a second. As you would imagine, Yoshi's main gameplay revolves around eating enemies and turning them to eggs, like in Mario World. You can use eggs as ammunition, and they are amazingly effective. They are incredibly useful against enemies, easily usable to activate switches and other interactable objects, and can even bounce on water. Who do these eggs think they are? Jesus' great nephews? Levels in this game are a ton of fun, each involving a variety of obstacles and each feeling unique. I honestly didn't enjoy the majority of the boss fights in Yoshi's Island, but the battles with Raphael and Baby Bowser more than make up for that. Now, I've had more than a few people talk about how annoying Baby Mario is when he cries, and I have a solution to this problem. Just don't get hit. In short, there really is nothing that can truly be said to critique Yoshi's Island. It's a charming little SNES game that deservingly a lot of people like. So close to forgetting.
So happy.
Whee! Mario's the big man. He's one of the few gaming icons that pretty much everyone can recognize, and his face and persona is one that is adored greatly. But we're forgetting Luigi, Mario's younger and, in terms of his capabilities in the platforming aspect, superior brother. He's always thrown off to the side, and a lot of the side games emphasize Luigi as being wimpy and clumsy. But in my opinion, he is clearly the superior Mario brother, and so it was fitting for him to receive his own game. And that game was the GameCube launch title, Luigi's Mansion. Before we start, I'm just gonna say that I have played through Luigi's Mansion 2, and I love it. However, I played through it and settled on an opinion of it after the Top 100 began, so I can't really be going and making alterations when I'm about halfway through the goddamn project. It'll just be there in the honorable mentions. Now, let's forget about the 2013 Luigi's Mansion and rewind back to 2002 when the original was released. At its initial release, critics loved this game and Mario fans hated it. Well, what did you expect? This isn't a Mario game, this is a Luigi game, and they made the great choice of making the game in a totally different style to the majority of Mario games. Mario rescues princesses by jumping on turtles and mushrooms. Luigi rescues his brother by going all Ghostbusters in a mansion full of ghosts. The core gameplay of Luigi's Mansion is to explore the mansion in search for Mario, while battling ghosts and collecting treasure. Capturing the ghosts is the biggest thrill in this game. You grab the control and C-stick and have an old-fashioned tug-of-war with the ghosts to capture them. The portrait ghosts are above all else the most satisfying ghosts to capture. These ghosts cannot be captured until you figure out a way to make them vulnerable, and there are a ton of interesting ways to do this. I wouldn't call this a horror game. There's no true horror when playing this game. However, Luigi's Mansion does have a great atmosphere to it. In the beginning, all the doors are locked, the mansion is completely dark, and there are ghosts around every corner. This type of Luigi is extremely effective and really helps immerse the player into Luigi's scenario. If I were to fault this game, it would be that the majority of the music isn't terribly memorable, and Luigi's Mansion is stupendously short. Probably 4 or 5 hours long. But honestly, for what this game is, it's a fantastic game. Keep trucking on, Luigi. You'll always be my favorite Mario bro. Well everybody, at the close of this entry, we will officially be halfway through this monster. And to conclude this first half of the project, let's get something really good here. Let's talk about another Zelda game, one that is quite overlooked by a lot of fans and is one of my favorite Game Boy Advance games. The Legend of Zelda: The Minish Cap manages to baffle me. Out of nearly every game in the series, this one in particular seems to slip under people's radar. I mean, even Zelda games that are considered bad receive more attention than this one. This could all be down to some poor release dates at the end of the Game Boy Advance's lifespan, and also some poor attention from Nintendo themselves in regard to advertising, but for me, that's no excuse. Minish Cap is really great. Being the second game in the official Zelda timeline and the first game in the settled Hyrule, Minish Cap centers on Link, a blacksmith's apprentice who attends the Pickery Festival with his childhood friend, the Princess Zelda. During the award ceremony of the sword fighting tournament at the festival, a sorcerer named Vati attempts to open an ancient chest supposed to hold something known as the Light Force. In the process, he releases evil across the kingdom and turns Zelda to stone. Link takes it upon himself to restore the now broken Pickery sword, save Zelda, and stop Vati. Like most Zelda games, the presentation and music of Minish Cap is all very well done. The environments and sprite work look really fantastic, and the music in this game is just great. If there's one thing that Minish Cap does to make itself stand out from other Zelda games, it's the ability to shrink down to the size of a Pickery. With the help of your traveling companion Eslo, you can shrink down to the size of an insect and get a new perspective of your surroundings. I for one love this mechanic. Shrinking down gives the environment around you a great deal more detail, and this mechanic is implemented extremely well into exploration and puzzle solving. In fact, one of my favorite dungeons in this game takes place entirely as Minish size. The dungeons in this game are my favorite in all 2D Zelda games, with the two best being the Temple of Droplets and the Palace in the Sky. I brought him up earlier, but I want to expand on him now. Eslo was a fantastic partner. Not only can he shrink you down, you can also use him to glide, and really, he is quite a defined character. He has a lot of advice and a lot of witty remarks, but his relationship with Vati is another standout point of this game. I could go on for a good bit longer at this point, but I think I've made my point. The Minish Cap is a fantastic Zelda game that, unfortunately, didn't receive the attention it deserved at its initial release. Sometimes the world is a cruel mistress.